Okay, we're on. Hello, people.
Greetings to you all.
It's time for another episode of Corey and Matt Talk About... Yes, we have sound effects now.
Ha-ha!
Although, I forgot to use them in the course of the podcast. But we're new to it.
That's all right, man. We'll start out slow.
We're new to it. What do you say, Chewbacca? Yeah, see, that's what he says. At any rate,
Chewbacca's a fan.
this should be episode 7. Hopefully this will be without the audio tomfoolery we had last time. I've been listening intently to the monitor, and I don't think it fucked up.
Damn that tomfoolery.
At any rate, we're recording this on December 7th, a day that will live in infamy, 2013. And I'm your host, Corey.
My name's Matthew.
And what are we going to talk about this week? Well, we both just, of course, sponsored GOJIRA.
GOJIRA!
The Carolina Theater Friday night. We watched that and enjoyed it. Also, Forbidden Planet. So we'll talk a little bit about both of those movies and their significance.
Relative places in history.
Exactly. The Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it is now Amazing Spider-Man, came out this week. So we got a little to talk about there. Transitions into another article about possible X-Men Fantastic Four crossover films. A little to be honest, the movie conversation dominates the episode.
Yeah.
A little bit about Disney and their ownership of Indiana Jones now, which may have escaped your notice in the Lucasfilm deal, and a little bit of a correction, or at least an update to last week's story about the Samsung Galaxy Gear, and that'll pretty much sum it up for this week.
It's all good shit.
So y'all listen up, and we'll be back with you in just a minute.
See you soon.
We are recording now.
This is good.
So, hello, new people who may be here after having seen our bumper in front of GOJIRA.
Greetings.
How y'all are? So yeah, GOJIRA. I haven't seen it in so long. I may as well have not seen it, and all I ever saw was the American version on top of that. So, essentially a new movie to me, as was Forbidden Planet. I thought GOJIRA held up pretty well. I typically just don't have any interest in movies that old. I don't know if it's the pacing or just the style. I usually can't tolerate watching older movies like that, but GOJIRA held up pretty well.
Considering that it's, 60 years old?
Yeah, 59.
Yeah, I agree. But also I agree that I just took Godzilla for granted because I saw so many Godzilla movies as a kid. I'm not sure that I ever saw the original Godzilla.
Yeah,
I remember bits and pieces. Specifically, I remember the Raymond Burr stuff, but there was an awful lot of scenes in that movie that I have no recollection of whatsoever.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if I actually did ever see all of it, because I didn't remember any shit about the oxygen destroyer or any of that. I did not remember that they actually killed Godzilla at the end of it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I read about
alert.
it. I'd read, about the oxygen destroyer, but I'd never... Once I saw it on screen, I realized I had never seen it on screen before.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it. It had seeped into my brain from the culture rather than having ever watched the movie. And certainly I never saw Godzilla's giant dinosaur skeleton at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, I certainly would have remembered that, I think, the imagery.
Yeah.
It was a very somber movie, too. It had a couple of humorous moments, but I mean, it wasn't a comedy.
No, it had some inadvertent funny moments because
Right.
it's again a 60-year-old movie, but no, it was serious business.
Yeah, I mean, they had a couple of episodes with the professor, and I was reading about it later too, and apparently the bit where his tie is outside his coat when he's first talking to the press, and he stops and tucks in his. Apparently, that's a Godzilla thing. That happens in a lot of Godzilla movies.
Oh,
and they even paid some kind of tribute to it in the American Godzilla movie. So that's a thing.
I'll be damned.
According to IMDb.
It's literally the least interesting Easter egg ever.
Exactly. So, hey, tie tucking. That's a Godzilla thing.
It's the damn thing.
That's tie tucking for those of you playing at home. But it was pretty hardcore. That one scene, for one, a lot of people died.
Yes.
Holy crap! And you had the scene with the mom cowering with her children, saying they'll be with daddy soon.
Yeah,
and you didn't see what happened to them, but it's pretty clear that death was imminent.
Right.
And the wailing children and shit. That's pretty hardcore, man.
Well, again, through the culture, I always read as a teen and preteen, when I was really, really big into Godzilla, that Godzilla was an analog for atomic weaponry and or the United States.
Right.
And you never... It's just a sentence that you read if all you've ever seen are the Godzilla versus other shit movies.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make a bit of sense to you. So, because you hear that and you're like, oh... So the Japanese love atomic weapons because Godzilla's cool.
And atomic weapons defend them from harm regularly.
Godzilla's fun and does professional wrestling moves. But yeah, when you see the original one, you get, oh, okay. So he was an analog for bad shit in that movie, but maybe not in any of the others.
Yeah. They basically had one serious Godzilla flick, and then... I'll have to read up at some point. I'd just be interested in the overall storyline of how Godzilla went from that to the campy Godzilla we know and love.
And also, how were they never... There were also other instances where even when Godzilla was not an outright villain, he was put in situations where he was... ambiguous, let's say.
Yeah.
So, but the oxygen destroyer never came up again for some reason. Godzilla, Japan got him that one time, and then Godzilla was undefeated by the Japanese military from there on out.
Well, that's the guy killed himself, so that technology wouldn't get out. So.
Yeah, I guess it didn't.
Yep, all the Godzilla babies were just fucked. Sorry. But yeah, I was very impressed with Gojira. And so yeah, that's that holds up. Unfortunately, none of you can go see it now because it's going in the vault. But,
you are out of luck for the next year at least.
Yep, you will have to go purchase the disc.
Another thing I noticed, the movie was shot in such a way that it looks less cheesy than probably the next 20 years of Godzilla movies.
Yeah, they were very smart about obscuring it and having him darkness, that sort of thing.
And of course it was black and white, that helped.
Yep.
But the one thing I did notice is they had not really perfected the Godzilla suit. His homeboy's neck was wonky as shit.
It was just flopping around like a newborn,
I don't know if they hadn't reinforced it yet, or the guy in the suit, was tired of holding it up on a broomstick, but Godzilla's neck would often bend in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I was reading. Apparently, it was like a 200-pound suit, and the guy was barely walking.
I'm sure it was hell to try to use that thing.
Yep, and I can't even imagine the smell. Jesus. But yeah, so we had Forbidden Planet after that, which I had also never seen.
Right.
Impressive, but considering the time it was made in, certainly the special effects were impressive. As a movie, I thought Gojira was a much better movie.
Oh, for sure.
Because there was just a lot of that technobabble nonsense in Forbidden Planet that you just had to go with. It's such a movie of the time, too. The guy's relationship with Altera.
Well, Forbidden Planet, yep, it was a product of its time, and at that time, science fiction, well, movies in general, but science fiction movies in particular, they didn't really set out to be entertaining because they trusted the spectacle of it to be enough, and that's exactly you can feel that in Forbidden Planet. They're like, look, man, there's fucking spaceships, and just look at it.
Well, yeah, entire sequences devoted to like the professor, Dr. Morbius, just basically being like, so here's a bunch of cool shit we thought of. I'm going to lay down on you right here. So let's talk about this.
That's right.
So this alien civilization, they were some badasses, and we're going to show you a bunch of cool shit. It's just walking around, basically just scenes, and like I said, it's very impressive. I was really blown away by the scene where they enter the giant shaft. That remember, we're talking about Forbidden Planet, not any sort of porno or anything.
Yeah, don't.
Giant shafts. And
If you tune in and just hear "enter the giant shaft," that is, don't be afraid.
Yeah, you're still in the right place. But yeah, it took me a minute to get, I couldn't tell the scale where they're going to, and I realized those 3 dots at the bottom of the screen are people walking around. I was like, holy crap.
Well,
some good work.
People think of the advancement and development of special effects technology in movies as a straight line, and it is to a degree, but, we're talking about technological advancement versus practical effects. So what happened basically historically in movies is during the 40s and 50s, there was a lot of effort being put into science fiction movies and special effects. And really, the art of special effects in movies, a couple of the better well-known special effects people that, cropped up in the Star Wars, post-Star Wars environment have told this story before, but special effects were kind of abandoned by studios for a good 20, 30-year period and really rekindled with Star Wars.
Yep.
Because if you look at stuff like Forbidden Planet and then compare it to, say, the science fiction movies of, the early 70s, the Logan's Run sort of era, Planet of the Apes, the effects work in the older movies was really a lot better.
Yeah.
And the reason... And the same thing we're going to see now, even with the advent of CGI technology in movies, special effects, there's certain things that you can't do anymore that because of health regulations, safety regulations, expense. You can't. In 1950, you could go out and hire 1,000 people to build a practical alien temple if you wanted to, and then shoot on location in your alien temple. Things like that are prohibitively expensive for all but the, largest budgets nowadays. So in terms of practical effects, there's a lot of things you're going to see in older movies that you'll probably never see again because it's not possible.
Yeah, just one time only. It's kind of the, like I remember reading Independence Day holds the record for like the most miniatures ever used in a movie.
Yep.
And we'll probably keep it because they're just not doing it anymore.
That's right. Right.
So, it'll be the title holder for the rest of time.
And probably the movie Blade Runner is going to go down as the all-time greatest in-camera special effects movie.
Yeah.
Because, again, nobody's doing it anymore. You look back at Blade Runner, it's amazing to imagine nowadays, but there's no CGI anywhere in that movie. That all of that shit was photographed.
Yep, it's all there,
including the Inferno opening scene. I mean, that was a crazy contraption of flat bronze, layer upon layer of flat bronze cutouts.
Yeah, they're like silhouettes. Stacked at various depths. Yeah,
just things that I don't even know that the expertise to do that sort of thing even exists
or
anymore.
the patience for that matter.
Right. Even if you could afford it, I don't know if you could find somebody to do it.
Yeah, they have to have a love for that sort of thing.
Like when Rick Baker dies off, I mean, are there going to be... Who the fuck knows how to make a giant, fat guy, realistic werewolf suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, once this current crop of special effects artisans like the Richard Edlund, Rick Baker, what's the other big
Tom
guy?
Savini, is that that
no,
one?
Tom Savini. Yeah, no, he's not. He is a special effects guy, but I wouldn't. Yeah. He knows how to make blood squirt out of somebody's
Friend
neck
of
when you
Robert
cut it.
Rodriguez. That's what we'll call him.
What's the other huge dude?
Just, if I may bring us out of the conversation for a moment, I have to apologize to the home audience. I just adjusted the board. I realized I had the input cranked up as opposed to my monitor because I was trying to hear it better.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
I may have been blowing out your eardrums earlier.
So sorry about that.
Yeah.
If we deafened you,
Yep.
we're not legally responsible though.
It's yeah.
We'll fix it in post.
So at any rate, continue. We digress.
I was trying to think of the name of the other big. I said Richard Edlund. Who's the guy that directed the movie Brainstorm and Silent Running?
Oh,
The hell's that guy's name?
I don't know, man.
He stepped into Star Trek the motion picture and basically rescued that movie's.
Oh, Douglas Trumbull.
There you go, Doug Trumbull, exactly.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Google.
way to go, internets. When that generation of special effects artisan dies off, and they're pretty old guys as it is, I don't know who. I don't think there's going to be many people left because the things they did are intricate and often things that were not repeatable, things that they built or machines that they made or effects that they designed for a particular shot and a particular movie. It was almost a build-to-order business for many years.
It was a shot-by-shot basis.
Yes, exactly. And I don't think we're going to see that again. So effects will be, on the one hand, more complicated and more grand, but on the other hand, what's going to be done is going to be done largely with CGI. You're not going to see a lot of practical sets.
Yeah, and something else I kind of lament. I mean, I'm not downplaying CGI. I'm all, I don't think CGI is a bad thing, but I do think one of those things you lose from it is that kind of artisan's legacy. It's not like, the few CGI guys we could name off the top of our head are basically the guys who founded Pixar. You know, I mean, it's not like, Leroy Jaselnik, awesome guy. He's cool with Maya. Did you see his work in What the Hell Ever?
Good old Leroy Jaselnik. Son of a bitch is hot.
And that's just it's not like now you have to be like, oh, the effects in this movie were done by this company.
Right.
So that's where you get your quality from. You got like Weta Digital. They do the Lord of the Rings. You got your Industrial Light and Magic. You got your, whatever.
That's right.
Like now, those are the names you look at. It's not like, oh, this is Douglas Trumbull did the effects for this movie.
Yeah, not unlike the course that video games took when in the 80s and 90s. And it's very rare. You still see like Sid Meier's name on the top of games from time to time.
Yeah, but that's like a legacy thing.
Exactly. That's almost just marketing.
Yeah.
Back when one or two talented programmers made the whole game, like in the Atari 2600 Pitfall days, there's a dude.
Yeah.
It was called David Crane's Pitfall because David Crane wrote every line of code.
Did it? Yep. And one guy did E.T.
Yep.
Except for
you can tell.
Yeah.
He did it quickly and while inebriated.
That was so cool back in the Tech TV days before G4 took it over. It might have been very shortly after G4 took it over. They had the little bumpers. They actually had the guy who did E.T. and he just came on for it was like a 30-second thing. He's like, I'm the guy who programmed E.T.
Yep.
And I guess that's why that channel's not still around, but I miss it because I love shit like that.
Me and you and like 7 other dudes were the only people that gave a shit about that. But yeah, that guy's name I think is Howard Scott Warshaw, who is largely credited with making one of the worst games of all time for the Atari 2600 and one of the best because he programmed E.T., which was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And he also programmed Yar's Revenge, which is
friggin' awesome.
If not the best Atari VCS game, one of the handful of the best.
So he bracketed the Atari catalog, basically.
Yeah, and what they did back then, not to go in too far in this Atari rat holes, they just, they gave you whatever amount of time they had left once they acquired the license. So they acquired the license to ET. They said, we want to have a game out by Christmas, buddy. Get to it.
And that's all there is to it.
Yep. So whatever you have time to do, whatever you can make in that amount of time is what we're going to ship. And they shipped a big turd.
Yeah, they did. And buried it in the desert.
Yeah, they did.
So I think we've successfully talked our way out of talking about Gojira and Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
So next item up for bids, the Spider-Man 2 trailer, Amazing Spider-Man 2 trailer.
Yep.
Came out this week.
I synced it.
Overall, I liked it. Awfully busy. There's a lot going on in that. I don't know what that means for the movie as a whole, but
I liked it too. But you know what? The longer I live, are there bad trailers anymore? When was the last time you can think to yourself, man, that trailer sucked ass? I mean, trailers are such a marketed craft now that, I mean, yeah, the trailer looked good, but the thing I was thinking the whole time was like, holy shit, they're not going to make any more movies after this one. He's
Right.
fighting every Spider-Man villain there is.
yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know about a bad movie trailer, but I've certainly seen a lot I would consider mediocre. I thought the first Thor trailer, Thor 2 for the Dark World. I didn't think any of the trailers for it were great. The first one I thought was pretty. I was like, obviously I'll go see it, but this doesn't look anything great to me. And I think the final trailer was fine, but it didn't have the same effect on me as, say, the trailer for the next Captain America flick, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
I thought the trailers, the first trailer for Iron Man 3 was kind of so-so. And then the second one, really what knocked it out of the park was really just the end scene where they showed the Army O suit showing up.
Yep.
And you can argue whether they should have even put that in the trailer or not, because it ruins the reveal.
Right, that's the thing. So I guess that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is a bad trailer. Is there any relationship anymore between the quality of the trailer and the quality of the movie?
Oh, well, yeah, as far as that goes, I don't know that there is, because,
Yeah.
I can think of a zillion trailers that have been awesome for shitty movies.
Absolutely.
Or at best, mediocre movies.
But, yeah, specifically relating to the Spider-Man 2 trailer, another thing I noticed is they've held over this maudlin Peter Parker monologue from the original Sam Raimi movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm wondering, are they just really trying? Did they really want another series? Sony execs basically seem to have said, what we want is another series of Spider-Man movies, essentially just like the one we just had, but with dudes making less money.
Right. Well, I'm kind of a mind that's exactly what they set out to do. They want to make just as much money, but spend less of it to get it made. They want to increase the margin
and give up less creative control.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you've got to give Raimi's he's a big deal. So you've got to let him have a lot of control if you want him to do your movie.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they structured the contract with Mark Webb, or is it Matt Webb?
It's Mark.
Yep. They just locked him in from the beginning. So even if the movies do go big, I don't know that it's going to change radically his level of control.
Yeah, and in the contract, they forced the motherfucker to change his name to Mark Webb. Dude's name is Ethan Piddleston. But that doesn't sound like the director of a Spider-Man movie. No. So they made him change his fucking name to Mark Webb. That's outlandish.
It's not acceptable.
But, fucking Ethan Piddleston, Mark Webb. He's I think he did fine with the first one. This one looks good, as you said, but holy shit. I don't guess you can really spoil it because there's a trailer out, but let's see. Who was in it? Let's see. We saw the Green Goblin.
Yep.
Saw the Rhino.
Yep.
Electro.
Yep.
Dr. Octopus's harness.
Saw his harness. Saw Vulture's wings.
Vulture's, yeah.
In the same scene.
Wings. And, 6 mysterious bays in Oscorp.
Yeah. So it's pretty clearly pointing toward the Sinister Six, if not in this movie, the next one for sure. Because, that's the thing. We don't know to what degree these people are in the movie either.
Right.
Yeah, but I was saying this to you a little while ago. I think they've got a little bit of an inferiority complex with the shit Marvel's putting out. They basically got in a room like, we got to step this up.
And they're going to start having some of the same problems that Marvel is having, because they've got to step it up with. Most of the people listening to this probably read comics, so I'll make this explanation brief. But within the Marvel universe, like, Doctor Doom would be a major villain for lots of different heroes.
For anybody, yeah.
Right. But since he's Fantastic Four, and since who owns Fantastic Fox? Fox owns Fantastic Four and those associated properties, that villain can never take on the Avengers or Captain America or Spider-Man.
Right.
So, it's tough to see what they're going to do, and they kind of look like they're replacing. If we can't have a big heavy hitter as a villain, we're just going to have a bunch of the motherfuckers.
Right.
Because Electro's not a big deal, but they're trying to make him into a big deal.
Yeah.
Electro looked at least 10 orders of magnitude more badass in that movie than I have ever seen him look in a comic.
Well, they're borrowing liberally from Ultimate Spider-Man, too.
Yeah.
The Marvel movies are kind of an amalgam of the Ultimate Universe, the regular Marvel universe, mostly regular Marvel, though I'd say, at least in spirit. But the Amazing Spider-Man, especially in this latest trailer, looks almost like straight up Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yep. And for those people that don't know, again, probably you do, but in case you don't, the Marvel Universe is just the normal Marvel comics and characters that you're familiar with, and then Ultimate Marvel Universe is like this isn't really true, darker, grittier version.
Right. They basically, even the Ultimate Universe has been around for a while now.
Yeah, exactly.
But well over a decade ago at this point, Marvel decided, what if we want to have some comics for people who they just want to be able to jump in and read it and not have to catch up on 60 years worth of crap. And so they branched off into the Ultimate Universe. So all the stories there are newer and have less crap for you to have to go back and catch up on.
And so also they tend to be a little more lax with rules of continuity.
Right,
like you could kill off a major character in the Ultimates universe where you couldn't get away with that in the standard Marvel universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, a good example is like in the Ultimates version of the Avenger, or the Ultimate Universe version of the Avengers, which are called the Ultimates, which is a little confusing.
Yes, a little bit.
But anyway, like the Incredible Hulk ate a bunch of dudes in that, right?
Yes, he literally ate people. Yes.
Yeah, we're not being ironic. He ate a bunch of dudes, which you couldn't have the Hulk in the standard Marvel Universe do that.
No, nor in a Disney movie.
Right, exactly. That's not going to occur.
Nope.
Although it'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, it would. I would, especially if it was Freddie Prinze Jr.
Yep.
As he threatened to do in the comics. Yes,
Freddie Prinze Jr.
did actually happen.
He ate him, dude.
Well, he threatened to eat him.
He did not ultimately.
I don't think he actually ate.
Freddie went out with Betty Ross, right? He's dating Betty Ross.
Yeah, and pissed him. Well, he either did or he thought he was.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it actually happened.
And he
was upset with Freddie Prinze Jr.
But he did eat a bunch of dudes, right? But he didn't. Freddie Prinze Jr. wasn't a dude he ate.
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Okay, cool. This is important.
Yeah. You folks at home may want to check into that.
You go back and check. But if he didn't, he wanted to.
So yeah. I liked I like the look of the Spider-Man costume. It's the most comic accurate I've seen. But on top of that, I notice when he moves around, it's got like wrinkles and folds. It looks like an actual outfit.
Yep.
More so than previous suits. So I'll give him props for that one.
I mean, there's nothing about the trailer I disliked. I liked all of it, really.
Yeah.
But I've reached a point where I think I'm inured to the chaos and the pacing and the blah, blah, blah about these trailers to the point that I just don't know if it indicates anything.
Yeah.
But yes, It looked great. It looked like a movie that would be damn entertaining.
Yeah. And that's all we really want at the end of the day. This is a good segue into our next nugget, which we already talked about a little. So Fox controls both the X-Men and the Fantastic Four franchise. They're I think apparently the same guy's a producer for both properties now. Mm-hmm. So there's rumors that they may try and cross-pollinate those two universes, which doesn't really surprise me, again, given the Avengers envy that must be going around.
Right.
It's kind of clumsy, though, because the X-Men and the Fantastic Four aren't really a natural fit.
No, not at all.
Never have been. I mean,
they're more likely to oppose one another, frankly.
Yeah, which I don't. I feel fairly confident that they would be opposed at some point. It'd be the typical comics fare. They would fight and then make up.
And maybe that's the way Fox would go with it, almost like a Fantastic Four versus the X-Men type deal.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say what they have in mind. Coincidentally, we don't have this as a bullet point, but apparently Bryan Singer's already talking about the next X-Men movie.
Yep, I saw that.
Which is going to, I guess, feature Apocalypse in some fashion. So I don't know what the Fantastic Four complication does for that.
Apocalypse, one of the, 3-4 biggest X-Men adversaries, probably.
I'd probably put him just behind Magneto, to be honest.
Yep, me too.
In terms of magnitude. You see what I did there?
That's good, magnitude.
So yeah.
Pop! I hope Allison Bree's listening. I hope she enjoyed that.
We need to get you another letter to her.
Yes, I will write another letter to the lovely and talented Allison Bree. That is a promise. She probably feels like I don't love her anymore.
Yeah. You can get on that.
Yeah, yep.
You're taking her for granted, Matt.
Damn it.
Taking her for granted.
I ain't treating that woman right.
Gotta look after that.
I love you, Allison. I'm sorry for what I did.
He does, really. I mean, he talks about you all the time.
A day does not pass.
Not a day when I'm around, certainly. So yeah, I don't know if there's, it's one of those things. There's just nothing to talk about yet.
Not really.
The X-Men and the Fantastic Four might crossover.
Might crossover the characters. That's all we know.
They might not. I'd like to hear a little more about what they have in mind for the Fantastic Four. The last Fantastic Four movies were not as terrible as they could have been, but they weren't great.
Well, there's a sense, I think, that the Fantastic Four has yet to be established properly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like reboots, but at the same time, I just don't know that the casting of those two Fantastic Four movies are ever going to be successful.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, well, they ain't getting Chris Evans back.
No, that's not going to happen.
So that's not happening. So he's out. Everything points to a CG thing, which is really how it ought to be.
Yep.
Now, they could have Michael Chiklis do his voice. I think that would be fine.
Yep.
And he could even do his acting. They could put him in the mocap suit with the ping pong balls, and have him jump around, and that'd be fine, too.
They could Gollum his ass.
The guy who played Mr. Fantastic, Ioan Gruffudd. Ioan Gruffudd is how you say it, but it's spelled Griffith.
It's spelled Ioan Gruffudd.
Yeah. At any rate, he totally wrong. for
so stupid. That was
for Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, that was the worst casting ever.
Nothing against him personally.
Probably
just
a fine lad.
Wouldn't pick him out of a lineup. Be like, yeah, give me that, guys. To this day, I don't know what went into that.
And he doesn't come across as smart. And
No.
when the defining characteristic of your character is that he is a genius, the likes of which has no peer.
The smartest person in the Marvel Universe.
Right. He is the smartest dude in the world.
Literally.
So there's no exaggeration. If he took the SAT test, the SAT test would catch on fire.
Yes.
That's how smart he is. It would spontaneously burst into flames
Now,
because he's so smart.
Dr. Doom would take issue with this.
Yeah, Dr. Doom would argue that of what we're saying, but guess what? Dr. Doom gets his ass whipped time and again.
Time and time again.
By Reed Richards, so there's the end of that.
So that's all we're saying. At any rate, the obvious one we're not talking about is Jessica Alba, who, and now it's obvious why they chose her, as opposed to Yoan. But God, I can't think of a worse casting decision.
No, it made no sense. I mean,
again,
Jessica,
nothing against her.
No, she's as hot as it gets. She's a good-looking woman. In no possible way,
fine actress,
is her character, her personality. There's nothing about her that makes her an appropriate Sue Richards.
They're chosen purely for demographic purposes.
Yes.
So, I don't see that cast happening again. No. As far as rebooting, I think they could really do it. They could do it like the Incredible Hulk. They could sum up the origin. And like some sort of opening sequence, and bam, here we go. Because it wasn't so long ago that I think people will have forgotten. It was a pretty successful movie, so I think they could kind of avoid having to retell the origin and just kind of get on with it.
And you've got to figure out I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. The next place I was going to go is talking about Doctor Doom himself. But,
right.
Because we were still on casting.
Yep.
I don't have a particular problem with that guy, just the way they played Doctor Doom as the head of a corporation, much less the head of a corporation in danger of getting drummed out.
Right.
That don't happen to Doctor Doom.
No, Victor Von Doom, but the whole, the character, the casting was wrong on Doctor Doom. The characterization was wrong on Doctor Doom. The changes to the backstory were wrong on Doctor Doom. Yeah, it was the worst part of the whole movie, frankly.
Yeah.
He was not the dude. The dude's not remotely threatening in any And again, Doctor Doom is probably the second smartest guy in the world. Horrifyingly pathological. And if you read Doctor Doom's backstory as told in the comics, it's dark.
Yeah.
And Doctor Doom has a strange European nobility about him that this guy didn't have at all.
No.
So,
because that's the other thing, Doctor Doom, he's a villain through and through. But he's also the kind of guy, he makes you a promise, he'll keep it.
That's right. If you could get Doctor Doom to say, I'm going to eviscerate you, but I'll never kill your son, then your son's good. Victor Von Doom is not going to turn around. He's not, he's, like I said, an almost old world sort of code or nobility about him that didn't come through in the movies at all.
He's like an old feudal lord, basically.
Precisely.
But none of that came through in any way whatsoever. I didn't have a problem with him, like giving him superpowers or any of that crap. Really, I don't think is necessary. But
no, it really
I didn't have
wasn't.
a problem with it. I've always thought. I tell you, the guy I've always felt like would make a good Doctor Doom is Jeremy Irons with his Die Hard 3 accent.
Absolutely. He may be a little old now, but he would have been perfect.
Because you need a guy roughly the same age as whoever you cast as Reed Richards, because they were supposed to have gone to school together.
Yep.
It's where their rivalry was kindled.
Also, Reed Richards should be 45 years old.
Yeah.
That's
he
the other
should be an
thing.
older dude. Yeah.
Stop trying to make him, a 20-something. It's not going to... that you change the characterization and the whole group dynamic, because Reed is the paternal figure of the Fantastic Four, not just the leader. He's literally Sue Richards' husband, and like a father figure to Sue's younger brother.
Yep.
And if you try to make them all the same age, which is basically what they did with the movies, you throw the whole group dynamic out of whack.
Yeah, exactly. Which, getting back to the Ultimate Universe, which is, I think, where the whole younger Reed Richards trend started. They tried to make him into like a child prodigy kind of thing. I just don't like that interpretation of it. It never caught on for me. I have a hard time. Yeah, Mr. Fantastic is a leader, a father figure. He's, he's the professor. He's the guy you look to. He has all the answers.
That's right.
He basically has to, he doesn't command authority in the, he's not like a guy barking out orders or anything in the sense of, say, Captain America, but he talks, you listen.
That's right.
He's the E.F. Hutton character.
That's right, because again, his intellect is so potent that it doesn't occur to you to not agree with him.
Right. And
really, there's plenty of room within the cast to do everything else you want to do demographically.
Mm-hmm.
You go ahead and make Reed 45. Sue can be 30, because this is a especially in that makeup, and not to go down a path of, I don't want to overanalyze it or talk about historical misogyny in comic books or blah blah blah, but the fact of the matter is that is a traditional relationship where Sue is a junior partner.
Yeah.
And not because she's a woman, but because anyone is necessarily going to be a junior partner with Reed Richards.
To the smartest human on earth.
That's just how it's got to be.
Right.
So you could make her a 30-year-old. Her brother, who's even younger, you could make him a sexy 22, 23-year-old dude. And then with the Thing, it doesn't matter, because he's a big pile of orange bricks.
Yep.
But, I think it all starts with casting the right Reed.
Yep. It all flows from there. I've thought, again, this is a guy who's too old to do it, but in his Stargate days, I think Richard Dean Anderson would have made a good
for
Mr.
sure.
Fantastic. But
there's plenty of guys out there. I mean, I've never really given a lot of thought, but there's plenty of good 40 to 50-year-old actors who could do a good job.
I'll tell you who kind of carried himself about the way, obviously minus a few things, is the way they played Bruce Banner in the Avengers. Mm-hmm. He was a guy who was clearly intelligent, but he didn't flaunt it the way Tony Stark does.
Yep.
And that's what you want from your Mr. Fantastic. He's confident, and he is unquestionable in his intelligence, but he's not going to swat you over the head with it. He's,
Because why would he? Because people that smart don't need to.
Right. He's almost, and I don't want to see them take this idea for a movie and go too far with it, but he's often been portrayed in the comics as the guy who's so smart that the niceties go by the wayside.
Right.
These days they just like stick him with Asperger's or something like that, and say he had some sort of sociological issue, but
well, right, and Reed walks that fine line, because there's nothing wrong with Reed Richards.
Right.
I mean, right, nowadays somebody that smart, you'd want to attach some
pathology to
some strange quirk
right
to humanize him. But no, Reed Richards is a 1950s
uber scientist,
Harvard-educated American man who's just way fucking smart.
Right.
And there's no... And you might see something like him occasionally being rude, and then Sue would say, "Reed, blah, you spent too much time in the lab, darling," or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's about as far as it went.
You didn't take Franklin to the baseball game
Exactly.
this week.
Franklin was crying because he didn't get to go to the ball game, honey.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see how low cut my dress is? You didn't even notice, Reed.
It's a good thing you're stretchy all over. That's all I'm saying. Oh, that would have been a perfect chance to use our new soundboard, but I forgot.
That's all right.
I'm not used to having it. Oh well.
You know what you thought of what I thought of when you mentioned the proper characters that when you're talking about Bruce Banner. Another thing I thought of really Fassbender's portrayal of Magneto in what was that?
First Class.
First Class, right? That's not a bad. That's pretty close to what you want for Doctor Doom. What he was doing with Magneto there.
Yeah, very true.
That's pretty similar to what you want. So that would be a good template if they were going to make it.
Yep. Yeah, and it funny if he weren't already Magneto, he wouldn't make a terrible choice for Doctor Doom.
No, not at all.
But
because and Doctor Doom is a little less emotional than Magneto, but again, it's pretty close. There's sort of a lordly Magneto. I mean, Magneto and Doctor Doom both assume they should be ruling over other people because they are simply better than they are, and it's logical. And Doctor Doom is even, Magneto's a aggrieved minority to some point. Doctor Doom doesn't feel that. Doctor Doom is, I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I'm rich. Obviously, the natural order is for me to be above all these people and in control in the same way a great white shark is at the top of the food chain. It's just natural. Yeah, there's almost no, it's pathological, like we said before.
He's kind of a.
It's almost like he doesn't mean anything by it.
Yeah, he is a less petulant version of Loki.
Yes,
basically with less petulant and more successful.
Correct,
than Loki, because and oddly enough, those are two guys who have had some association in Marvel Comics, but the difference is he's smarter than Loki.
Yes, and also an interesting factor. I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but an interesting factor about Doctor Doom that would be curious to play with, and always has been in the comics, and would be really fun to explore in a movie, is Doctor Doom wants to rule the human race. But Doctor Doom also has a very strong sense of pride in the human race. Mm-hmm. He is not a I want to destroy the world villain. He is a I should be in control because I could bring mankind to the ultimate fruition. I could make humanity what it was meant to be.
Lead it to its best destiny.
Exactly. He doesn't want to kill anybody necessarily, though he will if it furthers his goals. He wants to. There's been several times in Doctor Doom's history where he has, not through necessarily good intent, but he has saved the human race because he considers himself a person, a human being, and wants to lift all of humanity up. But insists that he and only he is the correct person for the job.
Right. He's the arbiter of how that raising should be done.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's totally from a different source from Magneto. Really, the only emotion he's pissed at Reed Richards. That's
well, yeah, and there's basically your difference. I think you just touched on it. Magneto does not think the human race is worthy of anything.
No,
Magneto really honestly believes that most humans should just be done away with.
In that sense, the two of them have occasionally come up against each other in comics for exactly that, because Doctor Doom is not going to let somebody else murder all the humans.
Exactly right.
As you said, if Doctor Doom decides to murder some humans, he will do it.
If Australia has to go, it might have to go.
Yeah, exactly. But he's about the numbers.
Exactly.
Does whatever I'm doing benefit the human race as a whole? If it is, I'll light a candle to half the world. I don't care.
Yes. If I have to eat a few babies, then maybe I will.
Some babies get eaten. Yep. Now, that said, yes, you, sir, Magneto, may not kill these people.
You let a non-human, like Magneto, I guess, is a non... He's
Yeah.
not Homo sapien, so I guess he's...
Homo superior.
Yeah.
Is what they call him. Yep.
But you let a non-human or an alien show up and try to fuck with the Earth, you're not going to get past Doctor Doom because, A, he's not going to let you be in control of the human race because he feels that's his job. But and also sometimes he makes a better defender because he's, fucking cold-blooded.
Right.
He'll do shit Reed Richards would not do.
No, exactly. This is why Reed Richards has to keep re-defeating Galactus.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Because it would only be one defeat of Galactus if Doctor Doom was in control of it.
Exactly.
Because he would cut Galactus's head off.
And that's just how that would go.
Yep.
Doctor Doom would be like, all right, we'll just take care of this once and for all. But yeah, again, we've gone off the rails on that one.
But not really. I mean, it's mostly a Fantastic Four shit.
Yeah, that's true.
We probably have time for about one more quick topic.
Yep. So let's see what's more interesting. We got 2 nuggets left. That Disney controls Indiana Jones, and that a rumor we reported on last week is not quite correct.
Well, let's just address the rumor real quick because all we have to do is basically here's
just
what
correct it. Yeah.
I read the whole article. Here's what happened. There was a report that only 50,000 Galaxy Gears had been sold.
Right.
Now, I don't know if and that turned out to be untrue.
Right.
Samsung claims they sold 800,000.
That's what they say.
Okay, but here's the thing. It might have been true in a sense because the 800,000 number is the number Samsung shipped. So
not how many are in customer hands.
Yeah, we don't really know how many have been sold, but there have been a lot of numbers circulating that suggest that they've had an extremely high rate of return as well.
Right. So it's up in the air at best. We stand by our nobody wants this watch.
I think even 800,000 having been shipped is no spectacular number.
Yeah.
But yes, if you look at the sold through number, obviously far less than that.
Considering how many phones they sell, yeah, that's not a lot.
Right. And assuming, I've seen a lot of different numbers, but assuming a 40% rate of return, they could have not possibly sold more than 400,000 or so.
Right.
But I have my doubts that they've sold that many.
So at any rate, we basically just wanted to get out there and be like, yeah, take a second look at this link.
It's probably, so that the 50,000 number is probably not accurate, but I'm still confident in saying it's a piece of shit.
Right.
So our overall thesis, I think, holds up.
On this, we are agreed. So yeah, this hadn't gotten a lot of play because, Star Wars and Marvel are the big. And yes, folks, I know when I say Star Wars, I rhyme them. It's just the way it rolls out of my head. I know it's Star Wars, but when I say it together, it comes out Star Wars.
You say it how you want to, Corey Thomas.
It's just how it happens. Star Wars. Yet if I say the word war, I say war.
War.
But Star Wars just rhymes to me. Star Wars.
Star Wars.
At any rate, that's kind of stolen the thunder, but Disney owns Indiana Jones now. It's part of the Lucasfilm deal.
Yep.
So now I haven't read this article you linked. What did it say? Did it just say, "Yep, they do," and that was it, or?
Yeah, because they acquired. Apparently, I don't fully understand the legal ramifications of it. I'd have to reread the article and probably read some other accompanying stuff as well. But my understanding is the relationship between Lucasfilm and Fox, for example, was always that Lucasfilm owned all Star Wars properties, and Fox was merely the distributor.
Yeah,
that was always the case.
Right.
Because Lucas, took great personal risk at the beginning of the Star Wars franchise, specifically to have that be the case.
Exactly. Yeah.
He in other words, he gave up a lot of money up front in order to retain ownership. It was never clear to me that same relationship existed between the Indiana Jones franchise and Paramount. And apparently there was some slightly more complex and sophisticated relationship. In other words, Lucasfilm still owned the property in a sense, or co-owned it with Paramount. One of those deals that you hear about sometimes where probably Lucasfilm couldn't have made an Indiana Jones movie on their own, but neither could Paramount have.
Right.
I think it was that type of relationship. The only thing I was ever totally clear on is that Spielberg was basically just a hired hand. Mm-hmm. Spielberg, who is, of course, associated with the Indiana Jones movies, having directed all of them, was a junior partner. He did not have any ownership say. He was basically just directing the movies.
Right.
But yes, apparently Disney has struck a deal, bought whatever the machinations were, so that they own Indiana Jones outright now.
Oh, okay.
They can go forward and make Indiana Jones movies, though Paramount would still get some type of licensing fee or royalty fee.
Right.
But Disney now has the right to make Indiana Jones movies going forward, and Paramount will control the marketing and the merchandising and the distribution of the current Indiana Jones library.
Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. And really, that just makes it the relationship I figured it already had, which, I did not know. Sorry, I'm dropping shit over here. I thought Disney already owned it outright. Basically.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, and so I think that's why it wasn't as big of a story, because I thought I assumed that they owned Indiana Jones. But apparently prior to now, there was some ownership aspects, but would not have been possible for them to legally make it. It's sort of like the relationship between Albert R. Broccoli and his family.
Oh, and James Bond.
Yeah. For years, the Broccoli family had the Broccoli family. Damn, that's funny to me.
George Bush wasn't a fan.
The Broccoli family had some type of legal final say over any Bond movies. Mm-hmm. Now, MGM, I think, managed to extricate themselves from that at some point by buying them out or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it was one of those types of deals where previously Disney could not have made a new Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah. Oddly, this kind of drags us back into the Marvel thing a little bit, but that reminds me, I read I should try and find it and link it in the notes, but I read an article that kind of discussed the Marvel rights that do not belong to Marvel.
Right.
And the extent to it, basically the deal seems to be, they can keep the rights as long as they keep cranking out movies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the flip side is Marvel has veto power over the movies.
Right.
But it's, it's kind of a, Marvel has to be assumed to be acting in the best interest of all parties. Marvel can't just veto movies until the license expires and take it back. So
right.
I just thought that was interesting. But overall, the idea that the rights just never, ever revert back to the original owner, that seems silly to me. But, I guess that's how it works.
Well, sure, if you sell them to somebody,
yeah.
This isn't a case of... Back in the olden days, I think issues like this were the creators were exploited in some way.
Yeah.
And a jury or a judge would go back and say, "Oh, look, you paid Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster 75 cents in a box of donuts for Superman.
They signed the back of the check.
That's not okay. That's not okay. So you're going to have to do a little better than that." But this is a new enough agreement where, it can't be... First of all, Marvel's a corporation with its own lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think Marvel could probably feasibly make the argument that they were conned out of anything by Fox or Sony. So, yes, I think probably, unless Fox or Sony just decides to sell those rights back, they're probably just gone in perpetuity.
Yeah, I just think about the prospects that, never, the twain never meeting.
Right.
I'd love, and maybe this could happen in the fullness of time someday, some sort of co-production, Disney / Sony / Fox.
Well, we talked about it briefly a couple podcasts ago.
It's happened. Stuff like that has happened.
The studios co-produce movies all the time. And, to be honest... the direction that Marvel is taking, that we think might be leading towards some type of Infinity Gauntlet, movie extravaganza,
Yeah.
it makes less sense when you don't have the heavy hitters of the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man.
I remember, I didn't hear. I read a rumor recently that I couldn't track down the ultimate source, but they claimed that Stark Tower was going to appear in Spider-Man on the New York City skyline.
Right.
But they couldn't, like, the design hadn't been finalized in time or something like that.
Gotcha.
I don't know to what extent that's true. But if it could be true, that'd be true. That'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But
Sure would be.
But it does cause problems when you start to run into stuff like,
Yes.
aliens invade New York. Where the fuck is Spider-Man?
Right. If you're going to fight Thanos, Spider-Man's going to get a call.
Yeah.
The Fantastic Four are going to get a phone call.
You got to clear the bench for
Yes.
Thanos.
Because, like we were talking about before, in fact, when you're fighting an all-powerful cosmic entity like Thanos is in the Infinity Gauntlet, certainly Reed Richards is going to be your go-to guy.
Yep. Just push him up to the front again. Well, yeah, I mean, you need to get, like, let's see, Mr. Richards, I'm looking at your resume here, and apparently you've defeated Galactus 37 times. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and push this to HR, but I think we can call this a done deal.
Galactus, yeah. I've noticed Galactus was in here earlier. As a matter of fact, we're picking you over Galactus based on the strength of your resume.
But oh god, it's a whole different conversation with how much ass Reed Richards has kicked over the years.
All of it.
But we're coming up on an hour, and I'm sure you folks would like to get on with masturbating or whatever it is you're doing.
Why you make your parents cry?
Sluds and whores showing your testicles on
Dirty bedroom.
Now we have to put that link in the show notes so people get the joke. If you've ever seen animals talking in all caps on Tumblr, you might recognize that. But
just stop being sluds and whores all the time.
Don't
scale it back.
Don't put your genitals on the internet.
Scale it.
Don't do that.
I'm watching Sherlock all the damn time.
Doctor Who. At any rate, once again, I'm your host, Corey.
My name is Matthew.
And we'll see you next time.
Farewell.